This is another Infosol production. Fossil Pride.
This is an original instrument. Soulful Enjoy.
This is another Infosol production. Fossil Pride. This is another Infosol production. Fossil Pride.
This is an original instrumental. Soulful music. Enjoy.
This is another Infosol production. Fossil Pride. Fossil Pride.
This is an original instrumental. Soulful music. Soulful music. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the main stage, everybody. We are celebrating the 15th anniversary of the Mobile Street Renaissance Festival. Let me tell you what's coming up a little later on. We have got a movie for the family. We're going to show Black Panther at the museum parking lot for the African American Veterans parking lot. You can see what we're doing on the main stage on the Facebook page for Black No Chaser, Mobile Street Festival Facebook page, Deborah Delgado Facebook page, City of Hattiesburg Facebook page, and Twin Forks Rising CDC on YouTube. Our guest right now for this hour is going to be Mr. Christopher Preston. He's with Ground Zero. Mr. Preston, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to be with you guys this evening. It's good to be in the city that I was born and raised in, and to have this opportunity to come back here and to make change in the city of Hattiesburg and beyond. I thank God that this festival is going on despite the fact that we're in pandemic, despite the fact that we have obstacles that should have kept us from assembling again this year, but there's no stopping some real genuine determination. And so I would like to thank Councilman Delgado and everybody who's worked with her to make this day a success. We want to thank everybody who's been in participation all day long, have had some wonderful and awesome speakers talking today. And so I'm going to take advantage of my opportunity to try to move the needle a little bit further, if that's okay. And so I am Pastor Christopher Preston. I'm pastor of Rose Hill Church in Columbia, Mississippi, 757 Highway 43 South. And I'm also a husband and a father of 5 and grandfather of 1. But I'm most recently I have become very active and socially engaged in social justice. And so I founded the Ground Zero, and the reason why we named the group Ground Zero is because we felt that Mississippi and Hattiesburg and Forest County in particular should be ground zero for social change all over this state. Because I believe that if you can change Mississippi and you can change a county named after a known Klansman, if you can get these changes in these cities and in these counties, you can do it anywhere. And so I felt that Mississippi and Forest County in particular needed to be ground zero for anything that we do, because I just believe that when people get a taste of real change, they don't hold on to it. They don't put it in their pocket. They don't take it home and stash it under the mattress. When people get a sense and a taste of real change, it goes all over into out of Hattiesburg and over into Macomb and down into Louisiana and up into Tennessee and over into Arkansas and over into Alabama and over into Georgia, because when people taste the freedom of successful social justice and they taste deliverance and real liberty, then people tend to pass it on to other people. In other words, social justice and freedom and liberty are contagious. They are contagious and highly communicable. You can't be around a person who's had some success with social justice and had some success with getting laws changed and not be excited about it. And so I'm really excited today because for the first time in this country's history, we have the right moment combined with the right momentum. We have the right moment. For the first time in this country's history, we have the right moment combined with an intersecting with the right momentum. In the past, we've had momentum, but it wasn't the right time. In the past, we've been angry, we've been stirred up, we've rallied, we've marched, we've protested, we've sang songs, we've cried, we've gotten beaten on bridges, but oftentimes it wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right time. We had the momentum, but it just wasn't the right time. There were other times that it was the right time, but we didn't yet have the momentum. And so for the first time in this country's history, I am blessed and you are blessed to see the confluence of right timing with the right moment and the right amount of momentum. And so this is a very, very special moment. When we had the emancipation, we saw the Emancipation Proclamation signed, we were so glad we were so glad to have slaves delivered from the plantations, legally at least, by law at least, delivered from the plantations. But that was a good moment. But we didn't have enough momentum to move beyond the plantation because we didn't have jobs, we didn't have money, we didn't have resources, we didn't own land. We couldn't own land prior to that. So ultimately we wind up in a cycle going back to the plantations and being sharecroppers and ultimately suffering even more humane and economic loss. And so that was a great moment, but we didn't have the momentum to match it. It was a great moment, but we didn't have the right momentum to match it. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was another opportunity where we had a great moment, where it looks like liberty and justice were going to forge their way through and plow their way through to the front line. And for the first time, we were going to see liberty and justice step to the front, step to center stage and say, we're here to show you what we're all about. But then following the Voting Rights Act of 65, we suffered intimidation. We suffered voter suppression. Even for the next 100 years, even for the next almost 100 years now, we're still dealing with the same issues. We're still dealing with the same issues. In fact, this much later, if you don't believe that you can have a right moment and not have enough momentum to keep it going, right to this day, one of the most egregious violators of voter suppression, Governor Kemp from Georgia, who purged 1.4 million voters from the rolls, placing thousands of registrations on hold for no given reason, and overseeing the closure and relocation of nearly half of the state's voting precincts and polling sites. Right now, Stacey Abrams very well could have been the governor of Georgia had it not been for aggressive voter suppression and, on some levels, voter intimidation. So again, we had the right moment in the Voting Rights Act, but we didn't have the momentum that we need. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, but people are still pecking away every chance they get at those civil rights. And so we had the right moment in that it was a good thing to have a Voting Rights Act and a Civil Rights Act, but you got to have some momentum if you're going to maximize the moment. The moment without some momentum will ultimately die on the vine. You got to have some momentum to put on it. And so this time we got the momentum and the moment finding each other in the same place and at the same time. And so right now what we have to do, what we're attempting to do at Ground Zero, is to maximize this moment. We intend to maximize this moment. This moment and this momentum didn't come cheap. It didn't come cheap. We're not here just by happenstance. It didn't come cheap. It came on the heels of Freddie Gray being thrown in the back of a police vehicle and drug all over town and beat around in the back of a police vehicle until he ultimately broke his spine and died. This moment and this moment and this momentum didn't come cheap. It came on the heels of Philando Castile, a gun carrying, an authorized gun carrier, a licensed gun carrier, being killed while reaching for his license. We are standing at this moment of the confluence of opportunity and the confluence of moment and momentum, because guys like Eric Garner, ladies like Tatiana Jefferson, ladies like Sandra Bland, men like Walter Scott, men like Alton Sterling, men like Ahmaud Arbery, and many others have died, and from their deaths arose this moment and this momentum we have today. My job today is to maximize this moment. My job this day is to maximize this moment. We're going to use it to the fullest extent. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And so Ground Zero began on the heels of visiting Petal, Mississippi, where many of you might have heard about the current mayor of Petal, Mississippi, making some insensitive and downright nasty remarks in the wake of the death of George Floyd, suggesting that if Floyd could breathe, if he could talk, then he could breathe. That coming from the mayor of a city that's soon to be a pretty major city in Hattiesburg, in the Hattiesburg and southern Mississippi area, coming from the mayor. And so when we got word that Mayor Marks had made such a statement, first of all, I thought it was very appalling that somebody in that position would take such an insensitive stand in such a critical time like that. And so we went to Petal and we rallied for 3 days. We met over there and we rallied in conjunction with Mississippi Rising Coalition and some other organizations. We rallied calling for the resignation of the mayor. Now, there was no legal way that we could get him to resign before his time was up. But what we've done since then is we've made every effort to know that the mayor of this city may remain in power, but he will not remain in power with a clean record and a clean name and a good reputation. He will not remain in office. We made sure that he won't remain in office with a clean record and a good name and a good reputation. Not because we're going to ruin his reputation, but we're going to do all that we can to make sure that everybody else knows what his reputation is. Not because we're going to be offensively ruining his reputation, but we're going to do all that we can to give the highest platform, the broadest platform, and the greatest stage to his era and his era and the things that he said and the things that he's done since then. And so we rallied, and this is how important it is that we learn to organize and learn to fight. Because immediately following the blowback that he began to get from making such an insensitive statement, instead of apologizing with which is what I think that any decent person would have done, instead of rescinding it, instead of recanting, instead of going back and trying to make it right, he began to align himself with right-wing groups that would support him as if he was under attack. And you know we're living in tough times when you can offend other people and then pretend to be under attack and get hundreds of thousands of people within a couple of days to rally around you to say that we'll protect you in your wrong. I know that we've come a long way, but we still got a long way to go. I understand we've come a long way, but anytime you have a young man who can go into a city, a young teenager who's not even old enough to be carrying a gun, can go into another city, can leave and go into another city in Wisconsin and hunt down and stalk down people and kill them with an assault rifle, and they can raise over a couple of $1 million for him in a couple of weeks to mount his defense. That tells you we've come a long way, but we still got a long way to go. Mayor Marks aligned himself with right-wing groups, but what he didn't know was that when people are sick and tired, you can get all the friends you want. We're going to keep on moving. We're going to keep on marching. And so we've been pushing and we've been pushing. We've been going to meetings trying to get his resignation. And somebody said, well, if you can't lawfully or legally get him to resign, then what's the point? Here's the point. We have to let people, especially in the South, know that there's a new standard that we're going to start living by. There's a new standard. We're going to raise the standard. We're not going to be able to say all kind of stuff and get away with it. We're not going to be able to say all kind of dismissive and demeaning things about other people and get away with it. You may say it, but you're never going to be comfortable with it as long as we're in the room. You may say it, but you'll never be able to lay down at night and sleep and be comfortable because we're coming for you. Not because we're trying to be offensive, but you've awakened the sleeping giant. You've awakened people who've been passive and thinking that everything is going to be okay. You've awakened the church person who thought that they could just sing by and by in the morning. When the morning comes, it's going to be all over. You've awakened the religious person who thought that they could just sing "We Shall Overcome," marching around in a circle. You've awakened the non-religious person who's decided that even though I'm not religious, I'm still human and I want to be treated right. I still have rights. I still have value. I still have meaning to this world. And if I allow you to trample on black people, then I'll ultimately will allow you to trample on me. And so here's why we keep pushing, even though there's nothing legally we can do. We need to make it uncomfortable to be racist. The reason why racism won't go away in America, not only is because it's highly adaptable from one generation to the next, it morphs itself into whatever it needs to be from one generation to the next. Not only is it highly adaptable, but the reason why racism is so hard to deal with, especially in the South, is because there are so many, not because there are so many racists in the South and in other areas, but because you got so many people who say they are not racist, but they are quite fine hanging around with, eating with, going to church with, being led under the pastorate of, sitting on the deacon board with, sitting on the trustee board with people who are outright known racist. And so we got to make it uncomfortable to be racist. We got to make people uncomfortable just saying anything at the family reunion. We got to make people uncomfortable for calling the police on black folk for sleeping in the dorm where her mother pays her tuition, for calling the police on black folks for barbecuing in the park when they were in an authorized area, for calling the police on black people for walking their dogs in the park, calling the police on black people. Poor Bob Marley's grandbaby couldn't even rent a Airbnb and without being harassed by people who were just calling the police. So we got to make it uncomfortable to be racist. And it's not a black issue. And Ground Zero is trying to make sure that you understand it's not a black issue. It's not a black, especially in our ever-evolving society. We have multiculturalism is on the rise. Multiculturalism is on the rise, and if you don't believe it, if you don't believe that you're gonna have some issues, you mess around and get hooked up with somebody of the wrong color, and your children will be hated just like the people they came from. So it ain't a black problem; it's a human problem. And so at Ground Zero, we've committed ourselves to addressing those issues, even though legally there's nothing we can do. But you would not say what you want to say and be demeaning to people and demeaning to the death and disrespectful to the death of George Floyd and go home at night and go to sleep. For months, he didn't have a peaceful night at home. because we were rallying outside of his house. They barbecued outside his house. They marched up and down the streets outside of his house, not trying to harass him, hoping that he would have a moment of mental and spiritual clarity where he would back up and retract his statements and turn in a different direction. So you can't change everybody. And listen, I've never desired to change everybody. What I've always desired to do is to let you know that the way you conducting yourself is not going to be acceptable here. It's only when we deal with race that people say, well, if you're not going to change anybody's heart, so what's the point? Well, you're not going to change the speeder from being a speeder, but you still make the speed laws. At his heart, he's still a speeder, but at least if he drives over 55, you got something to hold him to. You don't change the heart of the murderer by making laws against murder. He's still a murderer at his heart, but you make the laws that allows him to not be able to do that on the protection of law. And so, yes, we push back against people, and we can't change their hearts, but we want you to know you will not act out upon your racist ways, act out upon your prejudices on the protection of law. And so we move from there to Forest County. And begin to do some work with, thought we would have a very helpful relationship between us, Ground Zero, and the Forest County Board of Supervisors. Everything started out well. We met with one or two of them, and we were hopeful that they would address the statue that's outside of the courthouse, the Forest County Courthouse, the statue of the Confederate soldier that stands right now high above the courthouse, reminiscent of the Civil War days, watching over the courthouse, trying to be sure that those who would seek justice on the inside of that courthouse would at least think or at least fear that they might not get justice, because you got to go by this Confederate soldier, and you can't go inside to get justice without seeing that soldier. And can you look at the moral duplicity of having Vernon Damer, a statue of Vernon Damer on one side of the courthouse, juxtaposed with the statue of a Confederate soldier that represented hatred on the other side? Look at the moral duplicity found in that. Can you now? Let's just be clear. Let's just break it down to what you got. What you have is Vernon Damer, a great man who died, who gave his life trying to be sure that everybody had an opportunity to vote. On the other side of Vernon Damer, just a few feet away, you have a Confederate soldier who lost his life also, like Vernon Damer. But he lost his life trying to be sure that Vernon Damer would lose his life if he tried to help anybody to vote. Let me say that again. You got this Confederate soldier on one side who lost his life trying to be sure, a replica of this Confederate soldier who lost his life trying to be sure that we would not have the right to vote. You have Vernon Damer on one side trying to be sure, lost his life trying to be sure that all black people had a right to vote. Then you sit him on the same courtyard across from a Confederate soldier who lost his life also. But he didn't lose it trying to be sure that everybody had a right to vote. He lost his life trying to be sure that Vernon Damer would lose his life, and did lose his life trying to be sure that black folk could vote. And so we saw a problem with that. Not only was it duplicitous, but it was outright disrespectful. It was outright disrespectful. And so we went to the Forest County Courthouse expecting, we went to the Chancery Courthouse where the Board of Supervisors were meeting, expecting to have a warm welcome and to get have a cordial relationship and a good response from them, where we wanted them to address removing, not dismantling now, not destroying, not even disrespecting in any kind of way, but simply displacing and removing this statue to some Civil War museum where those who appreciated that could go and see it when they wanted to. So we went to the board and we made all kind of very nice points to them. We made all kind of very nice salutations to them to try to get their attention. And we asked them to remove it to another place. And we got responses like, well, you know, it's all part of history, and I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can tell me. I'm not sure what part of the Confederate history that I should be celebrating as a black man. Tell me what part of that, the front, the middle, the end, the battles that we fought in to keep ourselves enslaved, the losses, the waving of the white flag, what part of that are we supposed to embrace? So we were met with all kind of comments. We were met with, I don't think that this board should be making such a decision, and we were men. And listen, people, it was so frustrating in the moment because you had dignitaries that sat on the board of supervisors who made sure you knew that they were completely unbothered by this very highly intelligent case that you were making for having these statues removed. They looked you in the eye. They looked us in the eye. They looked us in the eye, and without batting an eye and without wavering, without blinking, they looked us in the eye with the look of most disdain, and made sure that we understood that at the end of the day, nothing had changed in their hearts. Nothing had changed in their hearts. Well, I got word that some were afraid that maybe their constituents would hold it against them if they voted to have this removed and replaced to some place where it could be more respectfully appreciated. My question was, if you got constituents that will get you out of office for doing something good and noble and something right and something righteous, then you may need to go back and check with your constituents, because something is wrong if you can't do what's right without making people mad with you and ready to run you out of office. And so they sat there, they twiddled their fingers, they laid back in their chairs, and they bit on the tips of their pens. Y'all just have to excuse me because I just have to tell it just like it happened. They laid back in their chairs and they chewed on the tips of their pens. They would pull their glasses down and look over as if to say, "Are you done yet?" If you went on longer than about 30 seconds, somebody would loudly throw their glasses on the table as your cue to stop talking, because they'd heard all they wanted to hear. And so we went in there and we made a very impassioned appeal to them. We appealed to them from a moral perspective. We appealed to them from an ethical perspective. We appealed to them from in light of the historical nature of the Confederacy. We appealed to them from we even appealed to them from the position emotionally. We appealed to them from the position of economics. You know, I've always decided that economics will move anything. I've always thought that economics will move in everything, but even in light of us highlighting to them the dangers of keeping these symbols and replicas around, the dangers that it was to our economy and the Pine Belt, you would thought that would have moved the needle. And at the end of our conversations, they had a vote at the end of that meeting and decided that they would not vote to replace it and remove it to someplace more suitable and more fitting, but rather that they would place it on the ballot for November. Everybody who lives in Forest County, in the Hattiesburg, Palo area, I need to ask you to join with us on November 3rd. Get to the polls on November 3rd. You have to get to the polls because we have to get this off. We have to get this statue removed. Listen, if they need me, I'll come down here and I'll help them to get it carefully moved, and we'll wrap it in some packing tape or whatever else they need us to do. I ain't trying to be disrespectful to it. I'm really not. Listen, we'll help them to get it laid down on a nice flatbed truck, and we'll help them put all the signs. We'll do a little ceremony, a little going away ceremony. If that's what we need to do, we'll do whatever we got to do to get it laid down nice and get it bound down real nice, and we'll put blankets and all that stuff that it takes to keep it safe, to get it out of here, because America is better off without it. Hattiesburg is better off without it. Forest County is better off without it. The citizens are better off without it. Our economy is better off without it. Our collective consciences are better off without it. Our social relations are better off without it. And our courthouse is better off without it. What we're going to do, and in a minute, I'm gonna turn you over to the hands of Sister Clark, who's going to talk about some other stuff. But I need to, and then I'll come back when she's done. I need you to get to the polls on November 3rd. Do that. Vote to have that statue of that Confederate soldier removed. It'll be your small part to helping us to move on to the next level. It'll be your small part to helping us to move beyond the racist past of the Confederacy. Not only that, on the 18th, of this month. That's the third month. That's the third Monday of this month. The Forest County Board of Supervisors will be meeting again. We are going to be rallying outside of the courthouse where they meet. We're going to meet up there about 8 o'clock, and we're going to get a permit. We're going to meet out there about 8 o'clock, and we're going to hang out there. I know they're not going to vote to remove it that day. I know they're not going to vote to have it taken down that day. But we need to give them one last chance before this election to go on record saying that they will not touch that situation, saying that they will not vote to remove that statue. We're going to rally out there. We're going to walk across the street to the rally, and we're going to rally, and we're going to protest that Confederate statue being out there, because this will be the last time that the Forest County Board of Supervisors will have to do what is right. I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic, sometimes even to a fault, but I'm hopeful that somebody will have a mindset to go in a different direction and to go and to have this statue removed. But even if they don't, and I need to say this, I need to look right in the camera and say this here. Even if they don't vote to move that statue and have it removed to someplace else, we are not going to quit. We are not going to go away. We are not going to tire. We are not going to labor. We are not going to be fatigued. We are not going to be weak. We are not going to be intimidated. We are going to show up the next meeting. We're going to show up the next meeting. We're going to find out whatever we need to do to get that statue removed, because we are not quitters. We've been quitting before. We've quit too many times. I don't know when we're going to have this opportunity again. We can't let Ahmaud Arbery die again before we get this opportunity. We can't let George Floyd, Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, Tatiana Johnson, Sandra Bland, we can't let them die all over again before we get to this same point. So while we are here, we are not going to quit until that statue is removed from the Forest County Courthouse, and that way we can send a message. No, we didn't change everybody's hearts in Forest County, but everybody does not have to walk up to that courthouse expecting to get justice and having to do it under the threat and intimidation, or the reminder that's reminiscent of the days when black people had no opportunity to get justice in a courthouse, because in those days courthouses let men off the hook for killing killing black people, for bombing black little girls in a church. The little boy from Money, Mississippi came down here. All he wanted to do was hang out. All he wanted to do was come and hang out with his uncle and his auntie. Those courthouses where that Confederate soldier stands, those courthouses denied justice to people, to the killers, denied justice to Emmett Till's family, and protected those who would kill them. So we can no longer allow ourselves to walk in and out of that courthouse under the shadows of that Confederate statue. So what can you do? You can meet us out on November 3rd. You can go and vote to have it removed. If you say you're a decent person, now is your time to be decent. If you say you're a godly person, now is your time to be godly. If you say you're a righteous person, now is your time to be righteous. If you say you are an intelligent person, now's your time to be intelligent. If you say you're a patriotic person, now's your time. Now's your time to be patriotic and remove this symbol of a hateful insurrection that rose up and killed American soldiers. Now's your time to be patriotic. You said that all lives matter. This is good. Here's your chance. Here's your chance. Here's your chance to stand up. To stand up. And so I'm going to come back to you, because I want to motivate us and give us a call to action about what we can do to move forward with some organizing. I've had been in contact with my sister, who's been doing some very insightful and some deep voter registration, and she ran into a lot of issues. Some she can't disclose completely, but she can take us to the water's edge to let us know what we need to be looking out for. So right now I'm going to turn you over into the hands of my sister, Kathy Clark.
Thank you, Pastor Chris. Thank you so much. I'm always inspired by your passion, your motivation, and just your knowledge and your wisdom. Not only is he my brother, but we're serving as partners with Ground Zero. He is a part of this movement. I came on board because of him, and I am honored to not only serve as a partner with him with Ground Zero, but I'm just honored to just be in his family and biologically. And my mom is here. We want to thank her, the matriarch of our family. What you see is a result of her. And we want to thank her for just instilling in us that motivation to just believe in what you believe in, and even if what you believe in is wrong. Okay, believe in what you believe in, and until you learn better, and until you are given a more excellent way of on the topic and on the matter. But stand on your word, stand on your heart, and that came from her. So that is what you see. I am Kathy Clark. I am an activist. I am a mother. I am a pastor's wife. I am a grandmother. I'm an educator. And Ground Zero has been blessed to be an organization with a lot of skill sets. And so we have learned to take our place in that organization and just do what we were called to do. And we thank God that Pastor Preston, I'm thinking about my husband, Pastor Preston allows us to get in with both hands and feet. And I thank you, Brother Chris, for allowing me to just be who I am. And I'll tell you a little history on me. When I really came into activism, it was shortly after Trayvon Martin was murdered. And yeah, he was murdered, and he didn't just die, and he wasn't a sacrificial lamb. George Zimmerman took his life. And so a rogue wannabe just a community policer. And so during that time, I realized that we were in trouble. I started looking at my own family, my brother and my two brothers, my own son and my own husband. I started surveying the black men that were in my life and connected to me. I knew then that I had no other choice but to get involved. Sometimes so many people sit back and they watch these injustices and they watch these things until it hit home. So I knew then I wasn't waiting until my child became a hashtag, or my husband became a hashtag, or my brother became a hashtag. I had to get involved right then. And so I led marches and protests. And like Pastor Chris said earlier, a lot of times we get in those things and they're short-lived. And that's what America is waiting to happen now. They're thinking we could just ride it out with these black folk and these people that are they call us extremists. We're just simply people that want rights just like they have. But they're waiting on us to die down. And if they're smart enough, they will see that we're picking up momentum. Okay, we're not slowing down, and it's growing. It's not just in the United States. It's not just here in Hattiesburg and Petal, Lamar County, Forest County. It is worldwide. So, and they see what's about to happen, but we're not stopping. And so, as an educator, I am not one to be reactive. I like to be proactive and get ahead of the ball game, because I'm gonna tell you, history has taught us that every time we get to the finish line, guess what they do? They move the line. So we think we've advanced with the 1965 Voting Rights Act, but then they moved that line and they started saying, okay, you need voter ID. They start using voter suppression in our predominantly black communities. So every time we feel like we've advanced, they've already gotten ahead of the game. They came up with a plan before that law was passed. They had a plan to counteract it. They had a plan for us after slavery. Okay, they had black codes ready to initiate. Okay, so they've always had a plan, and I feel like that has always hurt us. We've come out of these movements without a plan, and so now we're walking in circles because we don't know what to do. When we came out of slavery, we didn't know what to do. Okay, they have a plan for us. It's our time to change the narrative. Okay, for so long, for centuries, we have allowed them to come up with our plan. Everything with education. They created our curriculum. With finances, they got the formula for that. It's time for us to have our own plan. So as I'm thinking about being proactive and we're talking about voting, this is voting season. We're less than 30 days out. Okay, and I'm going to do all I can in those 30 days to make sure that every voter, a registered voter, knows exactly what to do and how to do it. So to be proactive, there's several things, Pastor Chris, that I've been looking at. And we have to make sure that we look at our circuit clerk's office. We have to make sure that we look at our election commissioner, because we've had several people that has been on this platform talking about exercise your right to vote. Your vote means nothing if your ballot is thrown away. You stood in that line. I don't know what the weather's going to be like on November the 3rd. It may be cold. It may be raining. You stood in that line from the youngest to the oldest, gotten off your job. You're hungry. You're tired. You've cast your vote to have it thrown out. How depressing is that? Because you have put the power of your vote in the hands of the people. There's some people that we ignore. You just automatically think they mailed you your ballot in the mail. You filled it out and you mailed it back and sent it in. They found one little mistake, it's thrown out. And you still have to trust them to turn it in because they have to log that ballot in. And if they don't log it, it doesn't count. You don't know. So if you don't have your eyes on the circuit clerk's office and the election commissioner in charge of the machines operating properly at every precinct. Don't just walk in there and expect the system to work for you. Don't get surprised when you get to your behind the booth and it's not working. But it's working properly at Tim's precinct. And Camper Park. But over here at Train Depot and Rowan, we got some issues. You better start putting the pressure where the pressure needs to be because your vote still means nothing. Thank you for exercising your right, but stop putting it in the hands of the people. Get your eyes on the circuit clerk's office. Who's behind the desk? Who's training who? Because I'm finding out there are many who are not trained. There's one in Lamar County at the circuit clerk's office. I had to call the Secretary of State on because she was giving out false information. That's the proactive piece that I'm talking about. And you may not know how to do those things. That's what we're here for. Ground Zero. And there are other community leaders. Ms. Delgado. You have a lot of people in this community who are willing. Lady Janice Dupree, she will help you fill out those absentee ballots. The system is set up to fail us. I assisted somebody on Friday, an elderly couple, and my heart was aching because they were struggling. They were like, I want to get this right, and I feel so bad that I filled this out wrong. And I'm watching them. And it got to the point that I didn't understand some things. I sent them straight to the circuit clerk's office. The system is rigged for us to fail. It should not be that hard to cast your vote. It should not be, but it's set up that way. And if we don't start watching who we're putting as our election commissioners and behind the circuit clerk's desk, here's what from what I've seen, Pastor Chris, we've lost a lot of races that we didn't have to lose because some stuff been thrown out. I know for myself. I know what happened. So don't look and feel like you're defeated. I know that it happened. Now, in the election seasons in the past, I have not been there up close and personal with what has been going on behind the scene, but I took it upon myself to start researching the candidates for election commissioner. You better vet your vote. Don't just start marking off anything. If Tyler Wood didn't teach us anything, we elected this guy into over our vote. Tyler Wood. I'm sorry, district supervisor, the supervisor, I'm sorry. Or is it supervisor? No, he was election commissioner. Yes, and he's been replaced. He didn't last a year. And he was appointed by David Hogan, who's giving us a hard time with the Confederate monument. Start vetting your vote. Don't just check off anything. We're in the movement where all hands are on deck, all races. This is not a black thing, a white thing. This is what's right and what's wrong. It's a moral issue. It's time for America to be held accountable for her systemic racism and oppression of all people. That's not too much to ask. And see, when we get it mixed up, Pastor Chris and my audience, equity and equality and something being equal and having equity are two different things. Because if we're at the table and I already have 8 cookies in front of me, and you want some cookies, and then somebody walks up and give you one and give me one, that's equal. I got one and you got one, but I'm ahead of you because I already had 8. I already had 8 cookies before that person tried to make it equal and give you one and give me one. All right? So we're already 400 years behind. You got 400 years ahead of us. We ain't doing tit for tat. We want equity. Advance us in our finances, in our education, in our laws. And that is isn't that the American dream? Then America will be great. Then we can talk about the greatness of America. America is not great until everybody's great. So we want to be great too. So start looking at these people who are running for office. Vet your vote. Okay? Don't just take it for granted. And if you don't know who they are, research them. Research them. We probably have gone through mayors and governors and senators and the like. Lost race. We got people in position now we probably didn't have to even have in position because of our vote. The integrity of our vote. We have to protect the integrity of that vote. So if you're out there, you're listening, and you need assistance with the rules and the regulations, and we're going to do it fair, and we're going to make sure that it's done with integrity and fidelity. Stop believing that lie. Ain't nobody around here cheating nothing. Okay? Usually when somebody accuses you, they're the guilty party. We want it fair. There's never been a time in America's history where we didn't seek fairness. So stop believing what people are telling you are, and you put your hand to the plow. It's going to take everybody. And it was until, and the difference, Pastor Chris, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, between now and move. Those people who lose tests, they have decided they're willing to risk it all. And until you get that type of passion and drive, you're going to continue to make excuses. You're going to continue to stay back and watch everybody else be on the front line. It's time for everybody to be on the front line. I'm going to stop saying I'm a frontline fighter. No, everybody's going to be a frontline fighter. Right, one line and everybody's a frontline fighter. No more hiding in the back, hiding behind social media and a keyboard. It's time to make your faces known. And because when they see the unity and the power behind that strength, they'll get some act right. That's right. But as long as they think it's just 2 of us, they can handle 2 people. But you try to handle thousands and millions with a God behind us. You put 1 million folk on the front line with God behind them. No, God in front. I take that back. God in front. Because everything we do is God-led. So for those who feel like this isn't a Christian thing to do, it is. I will forever be an Esther, and I will forever be a Deborah for my people. I can't sit back and watch the injustices that are going on and keep my mouth closed. Those who say you're not into politics, everything connected to you is political. From your library fine, to your pay wage, to your taxes, your school curriculum, everything attached to you is political. They made a political move without you in mind. So again, I'm excited about our steps moving forward. We're excited about November the 3rd. Empower someone, encourage them, get out and exercise their right. But between now and then, vet your vote, vet the candidates. I've already started some vetting. Call me. It's going to be your choice. I don't tell people who to vote for. I don't mind telling who I'm voting for and why. There's always a reason. But I don't care who you're voting for. But vet your vote. Protect your vote by knowing who's handling your vote. And hold them accountable. Come November the 3rd, I'm about to pass it over to you. November the 4th. If your candidate wins, You need to hit the floor running, holding them accountable. It doesn't stop after November the 3rd. You turn up the heat and make sure that everything that they've promised you, they have delivered on their promises. So again, Ms. Delgado, I thank you for this opportunity to be on this platform of power. Okay? And I thank God for this opportunity to be able to be a part of this fight. Brother Chris,
Amen.
Turn it over to you.
Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In the last few minutes, I want to invite everybody, to implore everybody to respond to this call to action. Everybody has an activist in them somewhere. Everybody does. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Everybody's not going to rally. Everybody's not going to preach. Everybody's not going to go to the courthouses and meet at the boardrooms. But everybody can do something. Become an active. If you for pro-choice, then and you sit on Facebook all day and argue with somebody about whether it's right to be pro-choice, you are being an activist in that moment. If you against it and you argue and debate back and forth with people or family members about it, you are an activist. If you agree or disagree with same-sex marriage and you argue and fuss and fight with your family members or on Facebook about it, then you are an activist. Some of us will sit online all day and argue with somebody we don't know about whether we ought to be still listening to R. Kelly's music and won't even get out and do something in our own community that would have took 30 minutes to be a real activist. And so I want everybody to wake up the activist in you. Wake up the activist in you. Whatever you don't like in your community, don't organize about it. Don't get on Facebook talking about potholes in Hattiesburg. Find out who's the supervisor or find out who's the councilman in that district. You locate them and you take it to them. Organize. Get active, organize. Stop talking about things. One day I was going to Tim's elementary school. I was going to maybe 7th and 8th grade, and my mom, we lived on this side of town, so my mom had to drive us to the other side of town. And I remember my mom remarking as we drove through near the neighborhood by Tim's, she said, "You see how nicely these people's trash cans are set back up after the trash man has already been through here." And she said, "But they throw ours just well. I mean, the trash guys they dump it and just chunk it over the head." And I said, "Mama, why do you think that is?" She said, well, it's because white folks live over here. And here's what I've come to learn at 51 years old. It may be because white people lived over there, but it was more because those white people were going to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, when you get done with my garbage can, don't throw it wherever you want to throw it. You sit my garbage can back down." Black folks ain't going to do nothing but go down the street, send a little Johnny down the street, go down the street, Johnny. They done throw my garbage can down there. And black folk got to learn to organize around what you don't like. Fighting and fussing and raising sand on Facebook ain't hitting on nothing. I don't care who you are, get up and do something. If you don't like the police, join the police force. Go to the city council meetings. Go have a relationship with your mayor that you can say, "Officer so-and-so stopped me this night and he stopped me 3 nights in a row and I believe he's harassing me," but just ranting about it says nothing. That does nothing. And so we have got to learn, and I want to talk to my religious people out there, to the religious community out there. It's time out for us just having church and singing Amazing Grace and singing a bunch of hymns and jumping up and down and shouting and raising money, and you ain't doing nothing to help your community. If you out there and you belong to a church, when you get there tomorrow or when you get online with your pastor, you ask him, "What are you doing to help the cause of social justice in this community? What are you doing to make things better?" "Oh, no. We're not going to just put it in God's hand, because we didn't put your anniversary and your appreciation in God's hand. We didn't put your salary in God's hand. We didn't put your parsonage in God's hand. We didn't put helping you pay your car notes in God's hand. We didn't put your life insurance in God's hand. We put that in our hands. And so now we're going to put it in your hands to get together and help us to get something done." Time out for preachers sweating and walking across the stage, trying to find their good side, trying to find their best angle in the camera. Now it's time for you to take off them Stacey Adams and put on some tennis shoes It's made for walking. Start helping people. Get out here in these communities. Stop talking about these young boys, how messed up they are. I know their daddy might not be in their lives, but if you got sense enough to see they messed up, you ought to have sense enough to show them a way out. Come out of your pulpits. Come off your deacon boards. Come off your trustee board. Come out of your usher boards. Stop singing, bringing in the sheep, and start bringing in the sheep. So I'm gonna say this. Just give me a minute. Martin Neumaller says when they came for the communists. This is why you gotta be an activist. He says when they came for the communists, I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. He says when they came for the socialists, I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. He says when they came for the trade unionists, I didn't speak out because I was not a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was nobody left to stand up for me. You can't afford to allow injustice to be upon anybody because it'll be at your front door next. But listen, I'm going to encourage you with the words of McFadden and Whitehead. If y'all 50 and over, y'all remember McFadden and Whitehead saying there have been so many things that's held us down before, but it looks like things are finally coming around. I know we got a long way to go. And then where we end up, I don't know, but we won't let nothing hold us back. We're going to put ourselves together, and we're polishing up our acts. If you ever been held down before, I know you refuse to be held down anymore. Don't you let nothing stand in your way. I want y'all to listen to every word I say. Ain't no stopping us now. There ain't no stopping us now. We are on the move. We are on the move. We've come too far. Ain't no stopping us now. We've marched too much. Ain't no stopping us now. And so I want to encourage you. We ain't going to stop. And we're not going to quit. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this time. Thank you, Ms. Delgado, again. Thank you for the media being here. Thank you for the officers sent here to protect and make sure everything goes well. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Man, let me tell you something. Blue lives and black lives can exist in the same space. They can exist in the same. I don't agree with this that we have to be one or the other. They can exist in the same space. All it takes is mutual respect. If you can take a woman that you didn't grow up in the house with, didn't grow up in the city with, didn't grow up in the state with, or even didn't grow up in the country, learn to get along with her, ain't no way in the world. Blue lives and black lives can't find a way to coexist. You'll find a way. If you love her, you'll find a way to get along with her. If you love her, you'll learn how to speak a little Mexican, a little Latin. If you love her, you'll learn how to speak a little German. If you love her, you'll learn how to eat her Italian dishes, won't you? When we love each other, we'll learn how to work it out. Amen, because love conquers all. We thank y'all. God bless y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Preston and Kathy Clark. That is ground zero. Now, in Atlanta, they got a 174-foot mural of John Lewis. This is what you call good trouble. Good trouble. That's right. Yes, sir. I'd never heard anything like that in my life. That's all right. That's beautiful. Okay, now we are on Facebook with Black No Chaser, Mobile Street Festival, City of Hattiesburg, and Deborah Delgado. We're on YouTube with Twin Forks Rising CDC on YouTube. Up next, we're going to have Why Vote with Ken Chambers. Is Mr. Chambers around? He's on the way. We're going to take a small break. We will come back with Ken Chambers. Why Vote? Thank you all for being here. Don't go away. You're on and helping us celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Mobile Street Renaissance Festival.
This is the original instrumental. Soulful music. Enjoy.
This is another Infosol production.